It is Super Bowl Monday in America. I'm Bill Hemmer, live in New York. Morning to you, Dana.
Good morning. It's so good to have you back. Everyone was thinking of you.
Thank you.
And your family. And hi to your mom.
Thank
Georgiana,
you.
I hope you're watching this morning.
And to all the viewers who were so supportive, and my own colleagues here. You know, a lot of people on the outside see us one way, but inside we are tight as a fist as a family here. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
So you are back, and I'm Dana Perino, and this is America's Newsroom. So he was ready to talk about sports, but I get to start. So the Eagles defense dismantling the Kansas City Chiefs and making things very hard for quarterback Patrick Mahomes.
Pressure right away. Mahomes is sacked. 2nd and 14. Four-man rush. Mahomes pressured again. Sacked again.
Oh, man, it just went like that, right? Chiefs Nation did not have much to cheer about, but fans of both teams apparently happy to see the president in attendance. Here is the moment from the national anthem. Listen.
Trump is the first sitting president to attend the game, and his appearance marking a cultural 180 for the NFL as the league bounces back from anti-police protests and woke policies.
So the president sat down with Brett for an exclusive pregame interview. He said he saw the game as a chance to unite America.
You know, you are going to be the first sitting president to attend a Super Bowl. It's a big day for America, always is. What made you want to do it?
Well, first of all, I'm very surprised to hear that. I would have assumed many presidents came, but I think just the spirit of the country's taken on a whole new life. I thought it would be a good thing for the country to have the president be at the game.
Travis is on deck with a reaction, but first, let's go to Peter Ducey. He's at the White House. Good morning.
Good morning, Dana. And we can report today from the White House that President Trump still has a long memory. He has not forgotten that Taylor Swift endorsed his opponent, Kamala Harris, and that explains this Truth Social late last night. The only one that had a tougher night than the Kansas City Chiefs was Taylor Swift. She got booed out of the stadium. MAGA is very unforgiving. While at field level last night, defensive tackle Chris Jones from the Chiefs sought out the president for a handshake during the pregame, and in the suite, the president and Patrick Mahomes' family posed for a friendly-looking photo. Back in D.C., though, the Doge cost-cutting effort continued despite Democratic protests, and the president's got no problems with this team led by the world's richest man.
Bottom line, you say you trust him.
Trust Elon? Oh, he's not gaining anything. In fact, I wonder how he can devote the time to it. He's so into it. But I told him do that. Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse. But I campaigned on this, Brett.
The plan is to save trillions 1 cent at a time. On Truth Social, for far too long, the United States has minted pennies, which literally cost us more than 2 cents. This is so wasteful. I have instructed my Secretary of the U.S. Treasury to stop producing new pennies. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time. There are plans, though, of course, to tackle bigger spending, too.
Any steel coming into the United States is going to have a 25% tariff.
What about aluminum?
Aluminum, too.
10%?
25%.
25 for aluminum.
25 for both.
And President Trump does not have any official events on the schedule today, but those tariffs are supposed to be announced at some point by the close of business, unless, of course, like last time, some kind of a deal can be worked out beforehand. Dana?
Oh, keeps us on our toes. Thank you, Peter.
Yes, sir. Clay Travis joins us now. Clay, good morning to you. We'll get to the news from the interview in a moment, but first, you're a big sports fan. The Eagles showed that they were bigger and better in every aspect of that game last night. What's your take?
Yeah, my biggest take, and congratulations to Eagle fans, I was wrong. I think the biggest takeaway for everybody, and I would say this if you're a parent out there, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts' story, Bill and Dana, is one of the most compelling in all of sports right now. For people who don't know, he was benched at halftime of a title game. Embarrassingly, Tua came in, and right in front of the nation, he had to stand on the sideline and deal with that. He then transferred from Alabama to Oklahoma. People have questioned whether he could be an NFL quarterback ever since. Bill, 2 years ago, you and I were sitting next to each other when he really outplayed in many ways Patrick Mahomes, but his team lost. This is a perfect example of being steadfast, of being mentally tough, of using a downward moment in your life to build back something better. And I just think Jalen Hurts embodies what kids should want to aspire to do in sports. You know, it was a big story for a long time, Michael Jordan getting cut from his high school basketball team. That helped to fuel the story of Michael Jordan. I would argue Jalen Hurts getting benched, coming back to be the MVP of the Super Bowl, is one of the great stories in football history. And it's up there with Jordan in terms of someone being so mentally tough that they were able to handle the slings and arrows and come back. So to me, that's the biggest story, in addition to maybe finally the Chiefs running into somebody that they couldn't win a game late against. We'll see whether the dynasty is threatened here by the Chiefs, but for right now, congrats to Philly.
Yeah, well done, Clay.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing Jesse Waters at 5 and see how he's doing, because he'll be very,
Is he
very
sober?
happy.
Is he still sober, Dana? I don't know. Let me give Dana credit,
Look,
too.
he's always threatened to take the day off.
I saw your tweets.
Uh-huh.
I saw your tweets, Dana. You looked like a diehard sports fan. I don't know if you can show these. I don't know who was helping out, but I was like, wait, did somebody else take Dana's? You were questioning the offensive line of the Chiefs. You were praising the D-line of the Eagles. Have you gotten football tutorials?
Actually, those were all my tweets, but I was sitting next to Abby Hornacek, and she was collapsed in laughter. She is just so funny. Hey, but the other big thing of the game is that Donald Trump went. This is the first president to go. The NFL, just a few years ago, we led newscasts with how woke they had become. Here's Brett and the president yesterday.
You won the popular vote. You won all the swing states. Have you thought about how to try to bring the country together, to reach out or to find common ground? Have you thought about that or how that might go?
I'd love to do it, but I would say this. We have to come together, but to come together, there's only one thing that's going to do it, and that's massive success. Success will bring the country together, but it's hard.
Could you feel that in the air last night?
I did, and I think there's several things that are important. First of all, congratulations to President Trump for doing this and his team to think to do it. The fact that no sitting president had ever been to a Super Bowl before was a record scratch moment for me, and I'm a big sports fan because we've had past presidents, we've had first ladies, we've had vice presidents, we've never seen this. I predicted he would get cheered. That's because I think there are several things working here. First, players, coaches, and executives in the NFL, I believe, voted for Trump. You saw Chris Jones, star defensive lineman for the Kansas City Chiefs, specifically seek out Trump on the field to shake his hand. You saw Patrick Mahomes' family come into the suite to get a picture taken with him. And I look at the numbers. 60% approval rating for Trump among men. I don't remember the last time that happened. That's according to a CBS poll that came out yesterday. Also, plus 10 among voters under the age of 30. I think this is a sign that the country is rallying around Trump. And you know what they did? They booed Taylor Swift. Now, to be fair, I think a lot of NFL fans are tired of the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce storyline.
And there are a lot of Philly fans
They feel like
in New
it's
Orleans.
been force-fed to them. And there were a lot of Eagle fans who didn't want to root for Taylor Swift. You're right, exactly, Bill. But I do think the feeling and the cheering that Trump got during the anthem was also connected to another reason I think it was important for him to be there. He honored the terror victims of 1 month ago down in New Orleans, a fabulous city. I thought it was a very unifying moment. He made the right call. And I think the NFL now loves Trump. And I think sports fans do too. And I think he's going to be going to more and more sporting events because, one, he's a fan. But two, I think it's good to see an energetic president after Joe Biden's been sleeping for most of his term in office.
When you say the right call, David Axelrod put this on X last night. He said a year ago, Biden refused the traditional Super Bowl interview and the unparalleled audience it would have yielded. That bewildering decision was a major sign of trouble. Trump is all over it today. So that is in hindsight. Clay, nice to get your reflections today. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Hey, Bill, condolences to you and your family. We love you.
Thank you.
You guys keep up the good work.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Clay, very much. More on Brett's exclusive interview later tonight with President Trump. Tune in to Special Report, 6 o'clock Eastern Time. You see it right here on the Fox News channel, where there will be more news to be made, Dana.
No doubt about that by the time we get there.
All right, check that out. And this.
Meanwhile, President Trump signing a proclamation declaring February 9th Gulf of America Day, and he signed the executive order while flying above the Gulf yesterday. It was formerly named the Gulf of Mexico. It wasn't long before Interior Secretary Doug Burgum posted a photo of the U.S. Geological Survey website showing the name change. And just like that, you now have a view of the Gulf of America.
Right, and the pilot came on Air Force One and made the big announcement. It was kind of a cool moment. So, all right, that from yesterday. Now we want to go to the Middle East, where the hostage matter there is still a big and serious matter. Watch here.
Turning directly to President Trump and to Mr. Witkoff. Let's think bigger and faster. All 76 hostages out this week. End of war.
Okay, now, the shocking conditions by the latest hostages released by Hamas are being compared to Holocaust survivors. Now, the parents of one of those hostages killed in captivity makes an emotional plea. They're going to join us in a moment live with a message that everyone needs to hear. Dana.
Plus, the deadline is fast approaching for federal workers to accept the Trump administration's buyout offer. But could a judge toss out the whole thing? We'll preview a hearing happening later
Also,
today.
speaking of the courts, how the judges are launching counterattacks at Trump's ambitious agenda. He's moving fast. Can they slow him down? Andy McCarthy will tell us when he joins us on that.
But they're relentless and they're desperate. As we've seen, we're seeing them cry and scream, and they need to adjust to reality. And they're having a hard time with that.
Released by Hamas as part of an ongoing ceasefire. Their weak and gaunt conditions causing shock throughout Israel. Here's how they look before captivity and then afterwards. Now prompting calls for President Trump to get more hostages home and soon, including from the parents of Hersh Goldberg Poland. He was an American-Israeli hostage murdered by Hamas.
We received the wonderful news that Eli, Or, and Ohad were released today.
Seeing the condition of these three hostages, I'm turning directly to President Trump and to Mr. Witkoff. All 76 hostages out this week. End of war. Who benefits from dragging it out for so long? Not the people of this region. Let's get it done right now.
So they are back in Jerusalem. They'll join us live in a few moments. But first, live to Alex Hogan watching this story from London. Alex, hello there.
Hi, Bill and Dana. So we're learning more about these hostages who were released, what they endured, and their first moments of freedom. So let's start with 56-year-old Ohad Ben Ami. October 7th. The same for 34-year-old Or Levy, who didn't know that his wife had been killed when he was taken hostage. Although there was this moment, the reunion with his son. His 3-year-old had been without both parents for the last 16 months. Or says during this time in captivity, he had been held barefoot in a tunnel that was so small that he couldn't even stand. So again, giving a little bit of insight into what he dealt with during that time. Hamas paraded the gaunt-looking hostages this weekend ahead of their release, some of whom said that they had been told repeatedly that they were going to be released, only for that hope to be shattered. This was the 5th swap since the ceasefire began on January 19th. In exchange for the 3 Israelis this weekend, Israel freed nearly 200 Palestinian prisoners. Now, I've interviewed the brother of Or, one of the hostages who was released this weekend, who repeatedly said he was going to do everything he possibly could to get his brother home. He was never going to stop. And that is exactly the fight that so many of these other families of the hostages are going to continue. We do know that an Israeli delegation is in Qatar to continue some of these talks, Bill, to be able to continue this ceasefire.
Yeah, if that was their condition, you wonder really how many are still alive. Alex, thank you. Alex Hogan in London on that. Dana.
Let's bring in John Poland and Rachel Goldberg Poland. Their son Hersh was murdered by Hamas terrorists in captivity. They've joined us before, and you have an important message. First, let's hear from President Trump. This was his reaction to the treatment of the hostages.
They look like they've aged 25 years. They literally look like the old pictures of Holocaust survivors. The same thing. I mean, the same thing. And I don't know how long we're going to take that.
I think for those of us following this story closely, and you follow it more closely than anybody, that it was so shocking and so upsetting that when President Trump said that, it gave maybe some people a little hope that we could move this thing along, because Hamas is benefiting from this. being able to have all the propaganda and all of this thing, and the cruelty was just unbelievable. So, Rachel, let me start with you on what you think should be done next.
Well, John and I both feel very strongly that President Trump and Mr. Witkoff are the most professional, virtuoso deal makers that could be handling this situation. And all of the people that we talk to feel grateful that they are the ones who are involved. And that's why our plea on Instagram Saturday night, after we saw the release of these emaciated, Holocaust-looking hostages, we said we have to expedite this deal that is currently written to stretch over the coming months. It's clear that these hostages don't have time. If these are the hostages that are coming out, it means the ones who have not yet been released are in even worse condition. And so our plea and our cry and our greatest prayer is that President Trump and Mr. Witkoff will figure out how to make this deal happen quicker, faster, more speedily.
And John, one of the things does feel urgent because those hostages provided information back to the IDF that, yes, indeed, there are hostages there who are alive, who are being held in those terrible conditions.
It's true. And I even want to back up for 1 second and say that these conditions that they're being held in, we now are learning how terrible they are. But it's not totally new information. I remind you and the viewers that 163 days ago, our son Hirsch and 5 others were found bullet-ridden in a tunnel with no electricity, no water, no food, no air. And Hirsch, who was 6 feet tall, weighed 115 pounds, and all of the others were also skeletal. And they came out, and we shared this news with the world, and we wrote about it, and we talked about it, and we thought that maybe then that would be the trigger to get world leaders to push to action. It didn't work. Thankfully, right now, President Trump and Mr. Witkoff are getting things moving in the right direction. And as Rachel said, we just want it to happen faster. The people of the region need it to happen faster.
Before we came on air, Bill Hemmer asked you how you're doing. And Rachel, you said, we are breathing. And I'm sure that the days feel extremely long for you. There was a tweet I saw from somebody named Aviva Klompus. I follow this person on X. And she talks about the former hostage, Karina Ariev, who said, there were times when I said to myself, that's it, you're not getting out of here. But then I saw you and the people who came out onto the streets for us. This is what saved me, strengthened me, and gave me the hope to go on. Apparently, on occasion, the hostages were able to find out that, maybe catch a glimpse of the news and find out that people were fighting for them. And obviously, you continue to do that. If they are able to hear anything from you right now, what would you like to say?
They have got to know that every single person is fighting for them, loves them. They must stay strong. They must survive. They must come home. Everyone is waiting for them. And no one is giving up on them. We work day and night, everyone does, for them to come home.
Final word to you, John.
Well, I like that the story before ours, he talked about President Trump and showed him saying success will bring the country together. That is so true about Israel as well. And success for Israel right now is bring home 76 hostages. And so the world needs it. The families of the hostages need it. I remind the viewers on Fox that there are 6 Americans remaining in captivity among the 76. Success is bringing every one of them home, as many of them as possible alive, and doing it today, tomorrow, this week, getting it done.
I love seeing your faces. Thanks for coming back, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Stay strong. President Trump, meanwhile, sending additional active duty troops to defend our southern border as the crackdown on illegal immigration is in full force. We'll get to that, and we'll get to this. Check it out.
The government is far too big, far too bloated, and we're on a path now to start to see it shrink. This is a first step only, but we're moving in the right direction.
Democrats trying to disrupt DOJ's plan to trim that fat despite support from most voters. And they say they're ready to take extreme measures. So what will that be? Kaylee and Guy are going to take it on when they join us on this Super Bowl Monday. So now today, a federal judge will hear arguments in Trump's federal buyout offer for some 2 million federal employees after extending last week's deadline. Alexandria Hoff live in D.C. on where things stand today. Alex, good morning.
Hi, Bill. Good morning to you. You know, there is a definite degree of uncertainty for the roughly 65,000 federal employees who have reportedly already accepted the deferred resignation plan. Judge George O'Toole has not weighed in on the merits of the case, but did push back that deadline for workers to decide. Today he's going to hear from the government and a group of federal employee unions representing about 800,000 workers. Those unions argue that the Office of Personnel Management lacks the authority to make such an offer and questions whether the government is able to pay the buyout. The OPM responded to the extension, writing, the program is not being blocked or canceled. The government will honor the deferred resignation offer. Here's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
We encourage federal workers in this city to accept the very generous offer. If they don't want to show up to the office, if they want to rip the American people off, then they're welcome to take this buyout, and we'll find highly competent individuals who want to fill these roles.
According to the original email sent to federal employees titled Fork in the Road, accepting the resignation program means retaining all pay and benefits regardless of daily workload through September 30th. Democrats are wary.
I've been saying to all the federal employees, beware of this offer. I don't believe it's been funded. I don't believe Donald Trump has any history of ever paying his bills. And I fear that federal employees may be marked for later riffing, potentially without any compensation.
The administration argues that is not the case and feels that this extended deadline actually helps their downsizing efforts, since thousands of federal workers are returning to in-person work this week and might decide they'd rather not.
Well, interesting to watch, sir. Alexandria Hoff, thank you. Nice to see you in Washington, D.C. Let's see how it goes. Dana?
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, Democrats are calling for more aggressive tactics to resist President Trump's reform agenda, even if it means a government shutdown. What? Kayleigh McEnany, Guy Benson are here with more.
Morning.
Yeah, so here are Cory Booker and Andy Kim. They were on the Sunday shows. This was them talking about how they want to resist.
The strategy is to do whatever we can to stop Donald Trump from hurting Americans, from making us less safe, less secure, and from raising our costs.
You are open to voting yes to shut down the government, to make this point.
This is on them. We are at a point where we are basically on the cusp of a constitutional crisis, seeing this administration taking steps that are so clearly illegal. And until we see a change in that behavior, we should not allow and condone that, nor should we assist in that.
And NBC News has this headline, Kayleigh: we are figuring it out. Democrats struggle to keep up with Trump's dizzying pace. They don't know where to look.
I bet they are, because Trump has done more executive orders in 10 days than most presidents, I think, if not all, have done in 100 years. So that is a dizzying pace. But Andy Kim, he went on to say, you know, we're on the cusp of a constitutional crisis. That's the new buzzword, because I heard Chris Murphy say it's a constitutional crisis.
Oh, so the bat signal's gone out.
Yes, it's as if they've not learned that the existential rhetoric did not work. The threat to democracy, not to mention, we have sound that we could pull up at any moment from December of Hakeem Jeffries talking about government shutdowns hurting working people and those affected by hurricanes. What happened to that logic? It's out the window 60 days later.
Speaking of logic, James Carville has another twister here. All right, just go ahead and play this with his unique idea right now inside the party.
And it's like there's a plant somewhere in, quote, progressive, unquote, America that just sees how many stupid things that they can embrace. It's stunningly stupid. Both of them.
I actually would have liked to have seen that on camera. It is stunningly stupid when the greater majority of Americans, they got to balance their own budget. And they're telling Washington, go ahead and do it as well. And now they're giving us try. And the Democrats, like Andy Kim and others, are saying, you keep doing that, we're going to shut this place down.
One of the buzzwords, as we just said, is constitutional crisis. They're leaning into that. Another phrase that we're hearing and an argument repeatedly from the Democrats is no one elected Elon Musk or his team. And I just don't understand, from the party that has fully supported to the hilt every federal bureaucrat forever, who are unelected, faceless people who make all sorts of decisions with our money and have forever, for decades. Now one person who's unelected making some recommendations with a team and trying to find efficiencies to reduce the size of government and the scope of government. That's the crisis. And who elected them? That logic, that argument could be easily applied to the bureaucratic state that they are defending, possibly with a government shutdown. And I haven't heard them grapple with that hypocrisy at all. No one's asked them. I wonder if there'll be any pushback from many of our colleagues in the media. So far, not so much, which isn't exactly a surprise.
I read this morning, Kaylee, in this Substack, The Liberal Patriot, and they're pretty moderate Democrats saying, perhaps going after Elon Musk all the time is not the best bet. Here's a call for 5 here, guys. These are voters to ABC and how they support Musk and Trump.
It's pretty characteristic of Elon Musk. And I think that, you know, the whole idea of coming in and looking at government efficiency was going to be very disruptive. By design, immigration was a top concern, safety and security. It was one of the things that swayed me. So I'm glad to see bold action because I think it's needed.
I'm not entirely certain that he's going about it the right way. I do think that what he is setting out to do needs to be done.
So it's like getting the same goal may not be the right way to do it. Who knows? We'll see. But they like what they're seeing.
They like what they're seeing because he's not touching Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. He's not touching the big three that really affect. He's finding common sense items like the penny. I mean, who would have thought that we're watching the Super Bowl and Trump says, I've instructed the Treasury Secretary not to keep producing the penny because it costs 2 cents to produce it. These are common sense things most Americans think about and think, oh, okay, if you're going to cut that waste, let's do it. Can it be disruptive? Sure. That's why with USAID, for instance, preserving PEPFAR funding and whatnot is very important. But he's disrupting the system, fixing the problems with Band-Aids along the way.
So I told Brett last night that Department of Education will be next, Pentagon will be next. And he's convinced that you're going to find millions of dollars, if not more than that, inside of those departments as well. In the end, if this works, Guy, we could look back on this moment as saying, you made our government better.
Yeah.
And that'd be a good thing.
Especially in some of the low-hanging fruit. And I think it would be definitely in the billions, at the least, that you would save. And a lot of these gigantic, unaccountable bureaucratic agencies. And look, the idea that there's no oversight whatsoever, no, there's congressional oversight. The judges are already fielding the lawsuits, right? The judicial side of the government, that element will also look at this. So I think the way the Democrats are talking about it, like Elon Musk has this band of unaccountable people, and they've got torches and they're storming the castle and just, you know, burning everything to the ground. It's not actually what's happening. It feels like the Democrats are casting about for something to coalesce around to find a purpose again. And they've chosen this. They've chosen defending federal bureaucrats and illegal immigrants, which are some interesting priorities that they've settled on. Maybe they could have waited for a better one, but here we are.
Maybe Carville's right.
Carville sometimes is right.
Sometimes.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Kaylee.
Thank you.
See you at noon today.
Thanks.
So on the legal front, President Trump's moving at breakneck pace to implement his agenda. A few federal judges now trying to tap the brakes. They were doing that over the weekend. Will they be successful? Andy McCarthy will tell us what wins and what doesn't next after this break.
Ở đây mình xin nước bông vào.